Hi, my name is Dr. Melisa Skyrm, and I'm an acupuncturist in New Jersey. I started using AAT over 10 years ago, and I honestly started using it for my own self because I had allergies, and it really made a huge difference in myself. But when I saw the changes that it made in my patients with respiratory allergies, autoimmune conditions, dietary issues, a whole gamut, and really being able to help children, I think, like infants and babies, elderly as well, that sometimes have issues with being needled, or children that are on the spectrum or have autism that a lot of times we didn't help or couldn't help enough. Before AAT, sometimes we would have very complex situations or patients where we really couldn't figure out what was happening like digestively, so we could support them, but they were always having reactions and it kept repeating, or whether it was someone was reacting to whether it was foods, or it could be a mosquito bite, for example, and they would just flare up to these just large welts. So just a variety of symptoms, or even people who had complex conditions like Lyme disease. Those are some examples of things that initially were happening, and they still do occur, but now utilizing advanced allergy therapeutics, I have more solutions to help them. I think I tend to be a little bit of a doubting Thomas kind of human, which is interesting because it's not very concrete, like honestly, right? So I remember when I was first learning it and practicing, I was surprised. It was one of my first patients, and I love talking about him because, well, there's a couple of them, but, having such horrible allergies, like their eyes were like totally puffy and swollen, or like they were like crusted, and, they were having a hard time at school or playing sports. And I remember doing the AAT and clearing trees. And, I was like, okay, it's probably going to take a few treatments to help you, come back. And then this one, he was a teenager. He came back and I was like, how are you doing? He's like, I'm 80% better. And he was so happy because he could play baseball and he felt great, and it's just so painful, right? Too, when your eyes, people think, oh, they're just swollen, but a lot of times they hurt, they're stinging, right? You're itching and it's aggravating. And he was just glowing. And, so that I think is one of my favorites, especially from the initial part, because I was like and I literally was surprised myself that I was like, wow, like this is like really working. Like this is great, So then it just kept, more and more people and stories. I mean, thousands of people. When you're first learning it, you're trying to figure out how to incorporate it, because I think that there's so many different aspects to it. And there are some practitioners who just do the respiratory aspect. And it's a very robust system that you can use it for a variety of conditions, or even helping people like long COVID. So I think it did speed things up. You realize it's like, okay, I'm going to help initially people with respiratory. And then you have these other people with chronic conditions and you're like, wait, I can help them in this way with it. So I think it was an evolution even as I was here in New Jersey, seeing that. So it did speed things up and being able to identify certain things. And I can give you an example is like if histamine kept showing up for people, it's not just the allergy, like you're having like a mast cell activation or you're having a histamine response. Like maybe we need to look at like high histamine food. There's other ways of sort of looking at it. And that's why I love it so much in helping me to identify different avenues that I need to address with people, with the education as well. I think from AAT, it can be respiratory. Like I have people who have cats and they have a cat allergy, or they're going to go visit someone who has a cat. So those types of patients, I think that has really expanded, because a lot of times we might just get pain clients for acupuncture. I think a lot of people think of that traditionally, and also just more complicated cases as well because of the AAT. I found it easy to learn how to do it. I think we touched on how robust the system is. I think in being able to utilize all that it encompasses, that takes time. I mean, there are different styles of acupuncture where you don't insert needles first and foremost. There's like Japanese style. But I think a lot of times people don't think about acupuncture for their children. And it can be very helpful, but like babies, like newborns, and sometimes they're having an allergy to their mother's milk, or they're having an allergy to detergent that maybe is being utilized, or maybe something the mom is eating. And I think that AAT has been really a great way to help with babies and to sort of see that like a younger population, because people might be a little bit more averse to say like, well, my baby's having this. They're not going to think about, I'm going to go have acupuncture done to help my little baby. So, but AAT sort of opens that door and can really give a lot of solutions and help in those scenarios.